All right, fifth graders, we have finished our Unit 5 on all of these explorers. Had a tough time as we've seen. So our goal for today is to kind of do our little foldable review chapter summary with all of the what I would call meat and potatoes of our chapter. So we have some vocabulary words we want to be able to identify for this test. And I'd like you to be able to identify which explorer did what. So you have some snapshots of the explorers and some vocabulary. It would be a good idea for you to not only have, you of course need this foldable review sheet. You received this in class from me. And you also should have your unit packet out. And you can be kind of pausing as we go, seeing if you can find out who these explorers are. You could have your textbook also opened up to chapter 5 and see if you can figure out who's who. So you're going to need some scissors, you're going to need a pencil, you're going to need this sheet, and then if you have your book and your chapter 5 packet, those would be good items to have as well. Right, the very first thing we're going to do is, of course, get this thing set up. So what you're going to do first is you're going to fold this, what I would call hot dog, not hamburger. You want to fold it right on this line so that the words are facing out, like so. Mine set, and you can get yours set. What's nice is sometimes in class, it's tough to keep up, right? When you're doing this at home, it's kind of nice because you can press pause. That's something you can't do in class. There are some benefits to this. All right, so right now we have the words on the outside. You open it up, it's blank on the inside. There are a bunch of dashed lines here, right? Those are the ones we want to cut on. But before you start cutting, because remember, you can't uncut, I want you to open this thing back up. So open it back up, and you're only cutting halfway across this paper until you get to the solid line. So you're only cutting this. You're not keeping it folded and cutting all the way across, and you're just gonna have a bunch of little pieces. You're cutting on this dashed line up to the solid, like so. This is what I mean. Go like that, and then we stop. And it looks like this. So do that for all of them, please. Cutting on those dashed lines up to the solid, just to the center of the paper. Flashcards are a nice option too, but I really like these because it's all just one thing. It's not a ton of little cards to keep track of. One of my favorite kinds of reviews. And this is something that when you get to middle school next year, you could create for yourself. Flashcards or a foldable review. Make your own Quizlets. Wouldn't that be exciting? You could do that. I'm gonna keep cutting. Almost there. And again, if I get to the end here and you're not to the end, all you have to do is press pause. Okay. So when you're all set, we have a bunch of little pieces like this. It looks like kind of like take one, but don't rip one off. Don't do that. Now we can close this up. And we'll write in the answers on the opposite side of this. Okay, so I always number mine just to make sure that sometimes these get a little off center or the paper might get bent or something like that. So I always put numbers to make sure that they're matching what's inside. So I'm gonna put a 1 and just go right down, 2, 3, and so on. Each little flap gets a number. And you should have 13 at the very end. And again, if I went too fast, just press pause. That's all I gotta do. And you should be trying to guess these as we go. That would be a good idea. So if you have your chapter 5 packet in front of you, these first 4 words are gonna come right from your vocabulary on that front page, so that should be helpful to you. Number 1 says, the name for Spanish explorers who claimed the land in the Caribbean and Central and South America for Spain. So the Spanish explorers, who are those? Those are the fun word that we like to say, conquistadors. Conquistadors. So open up your little flap for 1. I'm gonna put a little 1 right here so that I know it's 1 and 1 that match. And I'm gonna write conquistadors. That's CONQUISTADORS. Conquistadors, Spanish explorers who claimed the land in the Caribbean and Central and South America for Spain. All right, and again, you can press pause if you need to. Close that up. Now we are on number 2. Sicknesses brought by European explorers that spread quickly and infected many Native Americans. What are those called? See if you can think of it. I'm gonna open it up and put it at number 2 here. These are called contagious diseases. I feel like we know all about that right now, except we know more about contagious viruses, right? Contagious. CONTAGIOUS, and diseases, DISEASES. Contagious diseases. So sometimes they had, like smallpox was an example of one that came over from these European explorers, brought it over to the Americas, and then the Native Americans that lived there got a disease that they wouldn't have normally had access to. Not good. All right, number 3, the name of the shortcut from Europe to Asia through North America that many explorers searched for but never found because it didn't exist. So that shortcut, what was that called? We know that they were trying to find a shortcut from Europe to Asia because of the silks and the spices and all the different things that they wanted from China. That shortcut is called the Northwest Passage. So open up number 3, put a number 3 inside, and we're gonna write Northwest Passage. Now, if you wanted to write all the way on this flap over here, you can. If you can fit them both in this slot, that's fine as well. So Northwest, one word, Passage. A lot of them were searching for that. Not just gold and wealth and money. They were trying to find a quicker way to get somewhere they wanted to go. All right, number 4, places ruled by another country, not by their own people. So a lot of the explorers went and they started their own little settlements, and they didn't live there originally. There were other people that lived there originally. So when they came from another country and started their own settlement, these settlements were called colonies. So open up 4, put a number 4, colonies. So 4 should be colonies. Okay, now we're into our explorers. So this would definitely be helpful to have your packet out because all of the explorers' names are in your packet, and your textbook also has them. So these don't go in order of your book. Just saying. You have to know who's who, and on your test I won't go in order either. So let's get to it. For number 5, it says, this Spanish nobleman led an expedition into what is now the southwestern United States in search of a city of gold. So this was the one, I think, when we were reading this in our book, it just kept saying gold, 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 over and over and over again. A way to quickly figure this out, one little step would to look at the job, because not every single one of the explorers was a nobleman. So I would look to see which explorers on your list had the job of a nobleman, right, born into wealth. And then it says the Spanish nobleman. So we're looking for someone that claimed land for Spain, had a Spanish sponsor. And I would look at your map for southwestern United States and the city of gold, the one that talked all about the gold. That was Francisco Vasquez de Coronado. Did you get it right? I hope you did. All right, open it up. Put a 5. I think I'm going to start all the way over here because this is a long name. So Francisco, Francisco. Vasquez is Vasquez. De, D-E. And that is a lowercase d. Coronado, Coronado. And when you take your test, you won't have to recall this name. You'll have a word bank that has the 8 explorers listed, and you'll have to match Francisco with these words here. You'll have to know that he was a Spanish nobleman. So I would remember Spanish nobleman. I would remember City of Gold for him. Those would be some key words that I think would help. Okay, number 6. This French nobleman financed his own expedition up and down the Mississippi River Valley and claimed this land for France. So with this, I would be looking for the job, of a nobleman in my matrix for my unit packet, and I would be looking for France, okay, as a sponsor. And I think there's only one that mentions that he claimed the land of the Mississippi River Valley for France, and that is Robert de La Salle. Robert de La Salle. So open up 6. I'm going to write a number 6. Robert de La Salle. De La Salle. Okay. Closing that up. Number 7. This explorer convinced rulers of Spain that Asia could be reached by sailing west from Europe. Though he had thought he had reached Asia, he actually made the first European land claims in the New World. So who is the first one we talked about? The most famous, I think. Coming from Spain, Christopher Columbus. So open that up. Put a number 7. Christopher Columbus kind of kicked off all these other explorers. Not kicked off like kicked you off a ship, like got them started. Okay, number 8. This explorer was a merchant who convinced sponsors in England to support him as he looked for a new trade route to Asia. He never found the trade route, but he did make England's first land claims in North America. So as you're looking through your packet to try to figure out who is this, which one is this, I would look for someone who has a job of a merchant. I would look for sponsors in England, and I would look for motives of a new trade route. And when you look at all those things, you should find John Cabot. So for number 8, open it up, put a number 8, John Cabot. You will be able to use your notes packet on your test. So as I'm directing you to look for the merchant, look for England, look for a new trade route, those are things that during your test you'll want to look for to make sure that you can match up the information. Okay, number 9, almost there. This Spanish soldier, so we're looking for Spain, we're looking for someone who's a soldier, led an expedition in search of the mythical Fountain of Youth. That's a motive. He never found the magical waters, shocker, but he did find what is now Florida and claimed it for Spain. So that's his impact, claimed land for Spain, claimed Florida. And that person, as you look through and you find out, okay, well, there's Spain and he was a soldier and it says motives, Fountain of Youth. And one of the impacts was he claimed land for Spain, claimed Florida for Spain. You should have Juan Ponce de Leon. So let's open that up. Put a number 9. Juanponce, and again that D in DE is lowercase, and LEON, we have this little accent. Juan Ponce de Leon, the Fountain of Youth. That's what I always associate him with. Okay, close that up. Number 10. This sailor was sent by the King of France to find the Northwest Passage. That was the motive. He never found the passage, but he made France's first land claims in North America. So we're looking for someone who was a sailor, who was sponsored by France, and the motive was to find this Northwest Passage, this shortcut to Asia. And this is Jacques Cartier. So open up number 10, put a number 10, Jacques Cartier. And again, you won't have to recall that name. You'll have that name in front of you, but you do have to be able to put him with this description to match him up. Number 11, this Spanish nobleman led an expedition to conquer the Aztec Empire in what is now Mexico. Remember, this was the guy that kidnapped the emperor and held him captive for like 6 months. Not nice. Definitely mistreated the native people that lived there. So who is this? This is Herman Cortez. So open up 11, write a number 11. Hernan, with an accent on the A. Cortez with an accent on the E. Almost there, 2 left. Close that up. Holland and England sponsored this sailor to find a sea route to Asia. So there we have the sponsors, the job, the motives. He explored a large river in what is now New York and a huge bay in what is now Canada. Both bodies of water were named after him. So this would be Henry Hudson. Open up the 12 and write Henry Hudson. We have one more question here. So those were the 8 explorers. And again, I'd want you to be able to match the explorers' names with these descriptions that are listed here. The last thing I want you to be able to do is tell me about some impacts made by the European explorers during the age of exploration. And this one is not going to be multiple choice on your test. I want you to be able to use some complete thoughts, write this out. Tell me 3 impacts made by European explorers during the age of exploration. And I would pick probably 3 of the more common ones, but as you look through your packet, you have 8 different explorers, and every single explorer, the matrix has a little section that says impact. So we want to kind of look in general, overall, what were the most common ones. So I'm going to open this up, I'm going to list some things out, and this will help you to kind of put your thoughts together when you write a constructed response answer to this question. So I'm going to start all the way over here and put a number 1 because I asked you for 3 impacts. Number 1, many of them claimed land, right? But they claimed land for France or for Spain or for England. So we're just going to say claimed land for Europe. So for European countries. Claimed land for European countries. Because it wasn't all the same country, right? There's many different places, and this is how we can make it general. This is how we can make it apply to all of them. All right, number 2. Many of them, this was a sad one, many of them, once they got there, were very cruel to the natives that lived there already. So many of them mistreated or killed the natives. Natives meaning the people who were native to that land, the people that lived there already. And the third one, as I'm looking through all of the motives, as I'm looking through all of the impacts, a lot of them started settlements. That's what we're going to look at in the next chapter. So now we say, yes, they started settlements, and in the next chapter, we're going to find out how'd that go? How did that work out for them? So basically, this is what you're going to see when you take your test. You're going to have a vocabulary section where you are matching some words to their definition, and you're going to have an explorer section where you have to name that explorer, tell me which is which, and you will have one constructed response question on your test. You should be able to list 3 impacts made by the European explorers. If on your test you don't list these exact 3 impacts, but your impacts make sense based on what we cover in this chapter, that's fine. I just wanted to get the ball rolling and get you started with it. So my B group, you're going to be taking your test this Friday. You can't use this foldable, but you can use your chapter packet. And my A group, you're going to be taking the test next week on Tuesday. I want you to take this test in person rather than online. Some people have help at home, some don't, and just to make sure that it's fair, I would like you to take this one in class. That's why there's 2 different days. So keep studying this. Go back over. If you can't recall the explorers' names, if you look at your packet, or maybe you make a list of the 8 names, then you'd be able to pick out which one goes with which description. So you probably want to have a list of the explorers handy when you're trying to guess who's who. Like if you're trying to guess number 10 here, you want to look at a list of the explorers so you can say, oh, I think it's Jacques Cartier, okay, to make sure that you're right. All right, you're well on your way to acing this test. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this and complete your foldable. Now study up.